All right, we'll call this meeting to order. We are convening the regular meeting of the City Council, or the Council of the City of Newton Falls and Council Chambers on Monday, March 2nd, 2020. Please remember to turn off all cell phones or set to vibrate. Unless prearranged, the public comment sections are limited to 3 minutes. A 3-minute timer is used, and when the timer sounds, you'll be asked to conclude your statement. The comment sections on the agenda are not a debate or question and answer session. The first public comment section is for agenda items only. Final public comment section can be on any issue the public wishes. We ask the spectators to keep quiet during the meeting. If you're too loud and it is disrupting to all others, if any attendee is too loud, will receive a warning. If it happens again, you will be asked to leave. The clerk will take the roll.
Alberti.
Here.
Savet.
Here.
Bariak. Waddell. Braymeyer.
Here.
Okay. We will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and silent prayer by Pastor Betty Angelini of the Presbyterian Church of Warren.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for inviting me to come and pray. Let us pray. Eternal God, creator of the universe, there is no God but you. Great and wonderful are your works, wondrous are your ways. Thank you for the many splendid variety of your creation. Thank you for the many ways we affirm your presence and purpose and the freedom to do so. Forgive our violation of your creation. Forgive our violence toward each other. We stand in awe and gratitude for your persistent love for each and all of your children. Grant to all, including the leaders here, that making the decisions attributes of the strong. Mutual respect in words and deeds, restraint in the exercise of power, and the will for peace with justice for all. Be with them tonight as they discern and decide. Be with all of our country this evening. Eternal God, creator of the universe, there is no God but you. Amen.
Amen.
We've already taken care of roll call. So special presentations by staff members and invited consultants. I understand we're doing a live streaming of the Certificate of Achievement for Rachel Grunder at Solo Styles LLC.
Yes, that's right. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'm going to ask for carrying by audio only for a special presentation which is going to Rachel Grunder for the opening of the Solo Styles. And I'll turn the audio over to our mayor, Ken Klein. Mayor?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Mayor Klein, and I'm going to present this certificate of achievement to Rachel Grunder for her achievement in opening her new business. I'm standing here with her and her family, and so I'll go ahead and read it, and you shake her hand and ask her if she has anything that she'd like to share before I come back up to the meeting. It says, Certificate of Achievement. This Certificate of Achievement is issued for Rachel Grunder, Solo Styles LLC, in recognition of your commitment to the city of Newton Falls, and congratulations on the opening of your new business, awarded on this second day of March 2020 by Newton Falls City Manager David Lynch. Okay, did you hear all that?
We did. It's got your signature on there too, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to give her a handshake, and all right, so you didn't see that, but see if she has anything she'd like to share with you.
Sure. Go ahead, Rachel.
Hello, I'm really excited to be able to serve all my clients and new clients here in Newton Falls. I really want to provide a new type of personal and private appointment for clients. That way they can reach them on a deeper level. So I really want to be able to take care of people's needs.
That's great. Well, Rachel, on behalf of the city of Newton Falls, the mayor's there to shake your hand in person rather than handling the gavel right now, because new businesses in town, you know, they say there are two things hardest in life to do. One is outracing crocodiles, the other one is opening up a new business. And we so much appreciate your making an investment in this community.
Well, this community has been very good to me, and I'm excited to give back.
Mr. Chairman?
Gary.
Yep.
All
I don't
right,
know if
well, I'm
anybody
getting
in-
ready to come back up to the meeting, but first I'm going to schedule an appointment for my perm. Okay? Thank you
All
for
right,
getting
congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay.
Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Paul Woodard from the Newton Falls School Superintendent up to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager, Mr. Lynch. City Council members, other distinguished guests that are here tonight, and other people that are part of our city government. I wanted to come tonight to talk to you about the two levies that the school district has on the ballot on Tuesday, March 17th. They are both renewal levies, which means they are not new taxes. They are both levies that are already in existence. These two levies we rely heavily on, and without the passage of these levies, our schools will not survive. One of the levies is a 6 mil emergency levy, which originated in 1991, and we've been renewing that every 5 years since 1991. The other came about in 2015. It's a 4.7 mil emergency levy. And both of these levies combined generate just a small portion of what our overall budget is, but without them, again, we will not be able to survive. We've already cut things at our school almost to the bare bone, and with only these two new operating levies virtually in the last 29 years, it's hard to keep the doors open, quite frankly. We've done everything we can. I feel like there's a lot going on right now when it comes to our schools, our city government, and our town, a lot of positives. Our high school has been named for the 4th consecutive year as one of America's best high schools in U.S. News and Reports, 4 straight years. Yes. Our elementary school was just recognized as a high progress school of honor by the Ohio Department of Education. We're trying to do more and more every year in reaching out to the community and getting the community into the school district. We've had great programs in place for several years, like our Veterans Day program. Now we're doing things like senior breakfast. We have another one coming up on March 13th. And many other things that are going on at the elementary where people are coming into the schools all the time. I can't stress enough how important these two renewal levies are for our district. If we don't pass these two renewal levies, which again are not new taxes, they're the same taxes you're already paying. If we can't pass these, the state will be in here in no time, and the cuts that we will have to make will be drastic to our programs and to our students. So I'm hoping that tonight I can get the city council, our city manager, our mayor, and everyone to endorse these levies on Tuesday, March 17th for us, because we are very dependent upon them, and we need everybody's backing. I did pass out informational sheets to all of you. You should have one in front of you. If you did not get one, I'll leave some extras. On the back side of your informational sheet, it does have a chart that shows you some of the rankings by district in Trumbull County, and you can see that currently Newton Falls Exempted Village Schools is one of the 3 lowest districts in Trumbull County for total millage. There are 17 other districts that are higher. Our taxes are not high right now to live in Newton Falls. And again, these are not new taxes. We're just asking people to renew the 2 levies that are already on the ballot. Is there any questions that I could answer for anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I have one if I can go back. Yeah, Mr. Woodard, I saw an article in the Tribune Chronicle the other day that indicated that based on school property taxes, Newton Falls is one of the least expensive places to live in the whole Mahoning Valley. And that's a fair assessment of where we are right now, isn't it?
Definitely is, yes. If things were to go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and we could not pass these 2 renewals, and let's say 3 or 4 years down the road, they started talking consolidation of our school with some of the surrounding schools, we would be paying substantially higher to send our kids to a school that would be out of the district and sending them, 15, 20 miles away. We had a meeting a few weeks ago on a Saturday for anyone that wanted to come to discuss the levy. We had a gentleman that was there. He has 2 kids, I believe, in our school district right now, and he had come from a district where they had actually shut down, and once they shut their school district down, he said the town virtually became a ghost town. I don't want to see that happen. We have a lot going on here in Newton Falls. There's a lot going in the right direction, and my hopes are that we continue to grow and jobs continue to want to come to this area. Mr. Lynch and I have been a part of the Camp Garfield, Camp Ravenna project over here for a couple of years. We still don't know what's going to happen there. Mr. Waddell's been involved in that, Mr. Alberini, and if that would happen to come to the Ravenna area here, it could boom. Things could boom around here, and we would like to see people living in Newton Falls sending their kids to Newton Falls schools. We don't want to keep subtracting. That's what we've had to do for many years now. We've lost a lot of kids in enrollment, over 460 in the last 9 years. We want to start adding. These 2 levies is just going to help us stay afloat for right now. They're both renewals, not new taxes. But in the future, we'd like to add some things. We'd like to see classes like robotics. We'd like to be able to add other programs that we don't have down the road. It's going to be, I think, important probably within the next 10 years to see schools start to have computer science type classes. And we can't do that right now. We're at the bare bones. So I hope that we can pass these 2 renewals and, get us headed in the right direction. Again, not new taxes.
Mr. Woodard, I tell you, I have the utmost respect for you. Myself and Lyle, we've spent a lot of time with you the last 3 or 4 years in our private luncheons, and I can honestly say to the public that Mr. Woodard has such a heart for our kids in the school system. And I think he mentioned to me, he says, I'm at the age right now where I don't have to do this, but he's doing it because of that heart for these kids. And I am so impressed with that. That speaks so highly of you. The second thing is, we've lost 460 kids here. What does that equate to with a dollar amount from the state that you get for each pupil? Is it on there?
Yeah, we basically lost just under $3 million, about $2.7 million in the last 10 years in funding.
2.7. No company or business could survive with that kind of hit. And you're doing it.
In fact, just to piggyback on that, I've been down to Columbus and spoke to many of our members of the Ohio General Assembly. I stay in touch with them and talk to them about Newton Falls' story, and that's exactly what they've said to me. It's amazing that the doors of your school district are still open. And again, we've been doing everything we can to tread water. We have to have these 2 renewal levies. Without these 2 renewal levies, we can't survive.
Mr. Chairman? One of the things we continuously talk about in our economic development side of this is the ability to have a workforce ready for a company that comes in. And with today's technology and the additive manufacturing and some of the other things we're doing, I know Mr. Woodard and in some of our conversations would like to add some different classes that would prepare our students to participate and work in local business here, even with the ones that are existing, let alone the ones that we're trying to bring in. And it's just important that our school is current with the curriculum that we need for this, and this is important, but I think it's also important that we look at that future levy to bring our schools up to standard, that we have the workforce that's available that these people want when they come into town. And we can keep our kids here. We have a lot of talent that leaves town, and I'd love to keep that talent here.
I can tell you I'm impressed in the 9 years I've been here with just the amount of backing there is from the alumni that's graduated from Newton Falls schools and the people that continually come back supporting our programs, giving donations to the different boosters and the clubs and things that are there. there's a lot of community pride, and there's a lot of pride from the people that have graduated from these schools over the years, and I know I see some of them sitting right in front of me.
I also want to bring out a point too, a positive point too as well. As you know, Mr. Armstrong and myself have been good friends for ages. And I know Mr. Armstrong would not come here unless there was quality people in charge of the school system in Newton Falls. So I commend you for that.
Today was his first day on the job, and yeah, I would like to welcome Terry Armstrong as our new
absolutely.
treasurer.
Yeah.
He's a very good person. He'll be great at the finance, and he'll also be helpful when it comes to knocking on the doors down in Columbus to see what's down there to help us. He's also good at writing grants, so hopefully we can get some grant money that's out there that maybe we haven't been able to get in the past.
Smart move. Smart move.
Okay, anybody else?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, did you?
Yeah. No, we didn't have public comments, but I went through all the,
Oh, okay, okay, good.
you can read it.
No, that's all right. All right, public comments, anybody? Again, just to reiterate that that's prearranged, 3 minutes, and the comment sections in the agenda are not a debate or a question and answer session. First public comment section is for agenda items only.
Katie Carl, 128 West Quarry. You have quite a bit on the agenda under new business tonight, and I'm very happy to see that this evening the ordinance for the contract in regards to the Congregational Church is not, well, at this moment in time, it's not on an emergency level, and it's back on the floor, been changed, and I'm sorry to see that there's an issue with the property, but as I've talked to different council representatives, and it's rather refreshing to be able to call a council member and talk to them. I have not been able to talk to, and the city manager, of course, about different items and different concerns that you have. Having said that, I have not been able to talk to my council person, and that option's not been open and available to me, which I'd like council to address. Even Mr. Bariak's been very helpful, Mr. Waddell, and that's a concern as a constituent. You know, when I as a constituent, I'd like to be able to address my councilperson on a concern that I have. So I'd like that to be available, to be able to call and discuss any concerns that I have in the ward. So, and it's not funny. I'm sorry. That's very disrespectful.
Point of order, please. I shouldn't have to discuss this here or whatever. My phone number's everywhere. You know, she could have called me anytime. And it's not right for her to be in front of the public talking to me this way.
Do I get my time back? No. Okay, anyways, I also see on the acceptance regarding use of the opioid litigation settlement funds, are we going to be able to use and utilize some of that for the walk for, against substance abuse? Can that be, just a small amount, can that be considered, please? I know it's not going to be anything substantial. I'm well aware of that. Okay, but that's something that if that can be thought about, because it's something we do every year to try to get awareness out there for our community, because it is a big deal. So, anyways, thank you, and please consider too, when you do something in our community, for our community. One of the reasons why people are upset is because we would like transparency from all of you, and that's why people are upset, because this contract that's now back on the table, which we thank you very much for, and being brought back, please do it to where we know and we can see what's happening. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Kropp, 2470 Elizabeth Street. I'm going to touch on a few things here tonight for the first portion of the comments. First, I'd like to say congratulations to Rachel Grunder. I think that's really cool that you guys did that, and that was kind of neat how you guys did the live thing. Rachel's a good friend, and she does my wife's hair, so it's kind of close. Yeah, she did a terrible job, I must say. No, I don't trust anybody with my scalp. The next thing I wanted to touch on was 2020-08, which is about the agenda, about getting items on the agenda sooner than what's on the charter right now. As of right now, I think it's noon on Saturday. The meetings are on Monday, so you got like a little over a day to go through things. And I've noticed just recently on the website alone, there's been multiple changes to the agenda on the website that's not disseminated anywhere, that's not mentioned. They're actually the minutes for February, the second meeting in February is not, you can't even get into that, so that link doesn't exist. But I'll get into what I really want to talk about, which is the 2020-09. We started a referendum petition for ordinance 2020-06, which 2020-09 is going to repeal and revoke, apparently, if council passes that tonight. I would like to see that happen. We have the referendum and the petition all ready to go, but if this goes through, of course, that will negate our petition. But the fact that it won't be an emergency was my main issue with the purchase of the church to begin with. The people need to be able to speak. The people need to be able to address council. They need to be able to have a public hearing on the matter and speak out about it. And you know, if the council, or I'm sorry, if the public feels very strongly about not moving forward with the purchase of the church, and they speak out about it at the public hearing for the second reading, then we will move forward and petition that as well, and try to stop the purchase of the church for that. If no one speaks up and speaks out when they have the opportunity, then council can make their decision, and I'll stand behind that just like anybody else would. I think that's what we all want to see is you guys are here to represent us. Give us the opportunity to speak and say what we feel and what we believe, and honor that. And that's what you're here to do. That's really your job. Also, let's see what else did I have? Oh, as far as city manager going into reaching a contract with Untangled Technologies, I hope they'll go into more detail about that and the opioid discussions. I hope that more of that will be talked about, and I hope to hear more from council about what they plan to do with this church if this church purchase does go through. And what the plan is. I really want to hear how that's going to better the quality of life for everybody, because it's a want by you guys. It's not a need. We don't need that building. We want it. I've been in this building many times. I've been in some of the other buildings around town. They're all falling apart because you guys haven't maintained them. That's why we have a bunch of money now. And the whole idea that the markets are just way up, that's not true either. The markets, if you actually look at the last report, the markets have been increasing since probably 2010-ish. So you guys have been getting in return the same percentage return on the markets. You're just not spending money on the stuff in the city. We lit the water tower, which looks beautiful. We lit the falls. I don't know if any of you guys have gone over there at night to look at the falls. They're hideous. That's just to give you an example of the stuff that we're not maintaining or upkeeping. I just hope that you guys will consider that in the future when you spend taxpayer money. Thank you, and I will address you at the second public comments as well.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, we'll move into the reports. Start off with the mayor's report. Just a couple things. We had a meeting earlier today to start the planning stages of our welcome baskets that we're putting together for new residents, myself, my wife, Linda Grunder, Mark Stempert, and city manager Lynch. And, went pretty good, but with something like this, there's a lot of things that goes into it that we don't realize, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's a nice opportunity to welcome people in the community, as well as actually to let them know of businesses that we have. And while we have the cameras here, that's, I'd like to just, reach out to the businesses, to get in contact with the zoning Mr. Stempert, and any individuals that would like to donate, maybe a gift certificates or something to put into it. It would be a nice gesture for, like I said, people to come into the community, as well as it gets your name and your reputation out there as a business, and residents, any ideas or thoughts that you have would be greatly appreciated also. Second thing that I have, I do quite a bit of meetings with residents, some door-to-door, some different business arrangements and different things. And one of the meetings that I had this week, it was kind of interesting. They were bringing up growth with me in the community. They like some of the things going on, but curious, they said, well, what is your growth plan? And I tried to keep things, pretty simple. And I said, well, just look at the plan, such as you look in California and you look at the redwood tree. A lot of the redwood trees grow to be 300 feet, some of them 40, 50 feet wide. They live 250 years, some of them. The thing about it is what makes this possible is they grow in, you could say, droves or large groups together, and their roots are all connected and are intertwined. If they're not intertwined, no growth. If they're not connected, no growth. And I bring this up because it's the same way in Newton Falls. If we are not connected, we are not united, we will not grow as a community or individually. And it's just a challenge that I throw out there once again, that we have got to grow together, unite together. And last thing I have is the boys basketball team went to a ball game, was it Friday night?
Friday night.
Newton Falls beat Brookfield and advances to the district semifinals, and they'll be playing our arch rival, LeBray, Tuesday night. I don't think we have to say anything else other than LeBray. It's going to be at Warren Harding at 7 p.m., and I just invite everybody in the community to fill Warren Harding's gym up with a whole bunch of orange and black. The boys could use the support, and I think that you're in for a treat. This is one of the better teams that Newton Falls has put out there, and I think that individuals that haven't got to see them play have really missed a treat, and that's all I have. Council members' reports. Mr. Bariak, do you have anything?
I attended the Utility Review Board. Hopefully, it has been resolved amicably. We had one case. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Braymeyer, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. Tomorrow evening's zoning meeting is canceled because they mainly wanted to discuss more of the new fiber optics and so forth. So they felt they didn't have enough information to have a meeting. And I wanted to tell everybody that I believe it's on the 25th of this month is the Park and Rec meeting, and it will be held right here. And by then, we're hoping we're going to have more information on the new rec center. We're still gathering information and so forth. But at that meeting, or any of these, the meetings for the Park and Rec, you're welcome to come. It's right here. You can talk about the pickleball court the ladies are wanting, or the dog park.
Pickleball.
Oh, is it pickleball?
That's what you said.
Well, it is. That's what it is. A pickleball. Okay. That's what it is, Lyle.
Write that one down.
or any other ideas you might have to improve our parks, and it's a very a meeting. It's wear your jeans, wear your t-shirt, come in your pajamas if you want, But I mean, you could come and give us information, and we'll know what you like and what you want. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Mr. Waddell?
Yes. At the last meeting, I talked about going to Columbus with the chamber and, networking and talking with some of our state officials. And after that, I got this card that came to the office here. And this is why we do this. This is why we go to these. This is from Chris Kurzich, He is the Director of Government Relations and Corporate Affairs for Lordstown Motors. And he wants to come up to town and have lunch. And that's what we do. That's what you go to these meetings for, these trips, is to network and meet people and talk to people. And I thought that was a nice, I didn't expect that coming back to us. So he does want to have lunch, and we're going to do that. I went down to Columbus last week to the OML board meeting, and we talked mostly about the opioid out-of-court settlement, which we'll talk about later. There's some information there. Went to the Lattes and Legislators over in Liberty and listened to our auditor, Keith Faber. And, there's a lot of information he puts out, but I think the most important thing was he's really happy with the financial ways the cities are doing things now. They don't have a lot of findings, not as many as they used to have. And, and again, it's a credit to our finance director. We don't have a lot of issues, and they've by their audits and that, they've cleaned up a lot of issues. And like he says, they still have small issues in that, and they're going to continue to have those small issues all the time, and you shouldn't take it for anything more than it's just something that needs to be addressed. But he said the major issues, they just don't seem to see those around the valley anymore like they used to, and he was real happy with that. So we had a fire board meeting, and we had a pre-fire board meeting, before the fire board meeting, to talk about the contract. And I think there's a very legitimate concern to come up with a contract that everybody can live with. It's kind of the first time I've heard people really sit down and say, we really need to get this together. We really need to work on this. We went over part of the contract. We didn't get through the whole thing, but we got through that. So there's, and I think the other part of the fire board is how we fund the fire district and the equality in funding the fire districts. So I think that's going to be a very interesting conversation, and I believe with the people that are involved that we're going to at least have something to bring back and present to all three entities, the fire board, the township, and the city council, that certainly should be palatable for everybody. Did get the chance to meet with the Tribune and talk about the future of Newton Falls and where we're headed. I thought that was a lot of fun. And I think we went over to school in your memo, in your manager's report. Miss King and you and I talked over there. We read to the kids Dr. Seuss Day. And it was interesting that Dr. Seuss was born in 1904. He's now 116 years old. And it was really interesting how some of the kids were really excited and had all the different Dr. Seuss animals and stuff like that, and some of them didn't. I learned a lot about feet that I had never heard before, but but it was a lot of fun. I enjoy going over there reading to the kids. They enjoy us coming over and reading, and some of the other people, Lindsay McCoy from Channel 21 was there, and the United Way, Miss Collins from United Way was there. So it was a nice day.
All right, Mr. Alberini.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have nothing to report. I believe most of us are attending the General Motors visitation Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock for all elected officials, which I'm curious to see what takes place out there. So that was it.
Okay, Mr. Smet?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, Finance Director?
Your Honor, I just have one item to report tonight, and that is the Ohio checkbook file is with the State Treasurer's Office. That is it.
Mr. Munson, I have a question. Due to the coronavirus and the high fluctuation in the stock market, I see it's come down today. Are any of our investments in any trouble at all?
Not at this point in time.
I lost money.
Went up today.
I know it went up 1,200. Back up 1,200, didn't it?
Yep.
Thank you very much for that.
That's it, then, Mr. Law Director?
I have nothing to report, but I'm available for questions, gentlemen, ma'am.
Okay, any questions for the Law Director? Anybody? Nope. Okay, Mr. City Manager?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, members of council, this week I'll be attending the Ohio City Managers Association Conference in Columbus. I have been designated as a program moderator, and that's usually a preface to the opportunity to serve in a leadership position at the Ohio City Managers Association after next year. And I'm kind of hoping I can coordinate that with the ascendance of Councilman Waddell to the presidency of the Ohio Municipal League. He is on track to be the president of Municipal League. And if I can garner a leadership role with the Ohio City Managers Association, I think it will be the first time one community had leadership in both organizations at the exact same time. And the whole point is to leverage for Newton Falls as many benefits in terms of information and access to leadership, access to decision makers statewide, and that's really a key for the citizens of Newton Falls. In Columbus, they make decisions as to how much money we're going to get for roads, for police activity, and for a number of things. And if the people, the heads of these organizations are from Newton Falls, guess where the money's going to go? Anyways, I'm optimistic about that, and we'll report back next week.
Good. Any questions for the city manager? Okay, any changes to tonight's agenda? All right, approval of the previous minutes for February 19th's regular meeting. Who was the second? Okay, roll call.
Savant.
Yes.
Bariak. Waddell.
Yes.
Braymeyer.
Yes.
Alberini.
Yes.
Okay, public hearings.
The public hearing is on ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance amending ordinance 2014-09, an ordinance establishing pay rates for certain employees of the city of Newton Falls.
Make that motion.
That is the public hearing.
Oh, no motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Or are you in a hurry? Katie Carl, 128 West Quarry. I'm glad you're going through with this and for the part-time pay for the laborers and everything. I still haven't gotten an answer as to why and when things got confused and mixed up. And as part of this, and before you pass it, or when you pass this and start discussing this, can someone answer that question of when that got confused and why it did? As far as when our guys had to start doing the meter reading and whatnot, and when that got confused, and has this been fixed yet? Thank you very much.
If no one else is speaking, you can close the public hearing section.
We'll close the public hearing section, and under unfinished business,
Read by title.
Ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance amending ordinance 2014-09, an ordinance establishing pay rates for certain employees of the city of Newton Falls.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All right, roll call.
Bariak.
Yes.
Waddell.
Yes.
Braymeyer. Alberini.
Yes.
Savant.
Yes.
Pass. New business.
Ordinance 2020-08, an ordinance amending codified ordinance chapter 121, section 121.02, officers and staff. B, council staff in reference to delivery of council agenda and documentation.
I'd like to, since I sponsored it,
Need a motion first.
Is there a motion for passage?
oh, is there,
Yeah, we need
bring it up on the floor?
need a motion, yeah. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Barrick, you had sponsored it. Are you bringing that motion to the floor?
Yes.
We're waiting for a second then, gentlemen. Ma'am.
Second.
Okay, Braymeyer. Okay, discussion?
Yes, since I'm sponsored it, and according to the charter, I should have the first chance to speak on it. For a long time, there's been a lot of discussion. I know the charter, the 12102 says it has to be delivered by noon on Saturday. I felt for a long time, and especially last week, that I felt that we needed some legislation to try to give the public, the good citizens of this community, and the council a little extra time to be able to go over the agenda, to be able to put arguments together, and to weigh out. And it's hard when you get it at Friday night at 3 o'clock. And it's hard, nobody's open over the weekend, and it's hard to really put your argument together if you want to find out what's on the agenda. So I proposed one change in it, that from now on, instead of by noon Saturday, it'll be delivered by 4 p.m. Thursday night. That means the council will have it, and it should be open to the public. Is that correct, Mr. Lynch? The law director, is that correct, sir, the way this is written up? That it was supposed to be the only thing that was changed in the original?
Correct, that's the only change.
How does this affect the process that we have now, where you have to have all the legislation and all the comments and everything in by 3 o'clock on Wednesday? It gives the clerk time to get with the law director on Thursday, get everything completed, get it done, get it listed, get it typed up, get it presented on Friday. This kind of cuts everybody short now, and so do we need to move everything else around? It just seems like this is not going to be convenient for, the staff to get everything accomplished like that. It needs to be done, because there's a lot of research has to happen with this sometimes.
Anybody else?
I will say this, I don't have a problem with getting my information on Friday. I get my email to me. I prefer not to have it delivered to my home. I don't want to take away time from a police officer delivering a packet of information to my home when it's easier just to email me. So this past Friday I got it, and ironically I was homesick that day, and it took me about an hour and a half to review everything, and I was comfortable with it to see what we have tonight. So I'm satisfied the way it is right now.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to have a second address, please.
Okay.
The paper got it confused. They gave orchids and onions out. And last week, the reason this was brought up, one of the reasons I brought it up is because we were talking about cutting out the second part of the going to community events.
Point of order, that's not part of this.
What's that?
What you're talking about isn't part of this.
Oh, yes, it is. It's the reason why I put the sponsor the legislation, Mr.
How does cutting out the second comments?
Well, I'm trying to get at the reason why I sponsored this legislation.
Okay.
I'm sorry if it doesn't offend you.
No, I just don't understand how.
I represent the people too, sir, not just you.
I just don't understand how
I'm
it
sorry,
goes
sir.
together, that's all.
Please, can I have my second address now? We'll leave this go then. But I understand when I talked to Mr. Lynch, that it might have been a little bit harder on the clerk and Mr. Fritz to weigh it in. But since all of this has to be in by 3 o'clock Wednesday, certainly we don't do that much that's on the agenda. We have, how many things are on tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some of these things just need to be approved by Mr. Fritz. He needs to draft the legislation, make sure it's not illegal, and the clerk has to type it up and get it out to us. I'm for the people, good people of this community, having all the opportunity they can to have open and transparent government.
Mr. Barrett, you correctly identified the situation and that fact that when we get it Wednesday, keep in mind I'm prosecuting for 3.5 hours at the very least on Thursday with drug treatment court in the afternoon. So my time as law director is limited during that period of time. If you were to pass this, what's going to happen in not all the cases, but in some occasions, is she's going to have something where I'm going to need to research or look something up, and you're not going to have it to the following council meeting. You're going to get it postponed 12 additional days.
I understand that. I said that to Mr. Lynch. I said, if we run into a problem we can pull it back till you research it, sir.
Laying it out there. That
That's what I
Thursday,
s- When I introduced this last week, I sat in the office with him.
I'm unavailable.
I understand your position.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
I do have one. Go ahead, Ted. You wanna do it?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, items that were on this agenda that would have came after that deadline, what, like, how many of the items on this agenda wouldn't have been on this agenda?
What about a couple, would you think?
Past two for sure.
At least two, perhaps three,
Okay.
would not have been on the agenda.
And as a fellow executive for a county, or for a government agency, I understand needing extended period of time to get things on the agenda and things that do
Sure.
pop up as well, even after the agenda goes out. So, like, I would like to give preferably more time for the administrative to get the items on the agenda.
Yeah, if I can be recognized, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my biggest concern is there's nothing wrong with moving up the deadline. The problem is you can leave the clerk and the prosecutor 8 hours to do a legal review, then write up the legislation, then review it again after it's written up to make sure it's in compliance with the legal requirements that the law director has, and then for the clerk to then prepare the agenda and get it out. And with this, you're creating impossible. She can't do that in 8 hours. He's prosecuting most of the day on Thursday. And so there is a practicality. By the way, this is one of the reasons, the arguments you're making is the reason why we don't put the agenda out on Saturday at noon. We put it out Friday. We put it out a day early in order to give everybody more time. We already do that.
I have a question for the law director. What would be the problem then if we had to have the agenda set by Tuesday at 4 o'clock? That would give you 2 days. Could we move that back a day? I'll reintroduce the legislation next time. Could we do it that way? That way, Mr. Fritz, you have 2 days.
Right.
The reason I introduced this is, and Mr. Lynch knows, I understand there might be some complexities about you doing the research, and I said that, well, we just won't put it on the agenda then. I don't think any councilman would want to rush you if you can't get a legal opinion by then, and it's explained to me, I'd say, okay, put it on for the next meeting. Maybe, do I have to reintroduce it then?
I can't tell you what you have to. I'm just suggesting, if you were to move back the deadline in which has to get to us and allow staff the additional 48 hours to prepare everything, we should be able to keep in
Well,
compliance.
then I'll probably then, rather than what I need 4 votes to change that tonight.
Yes, sir.
Right? Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Well, then I'll tell you what, I'll withdraw this and resubmit it. Would that be the proper way to go, sir?
Yes, that would be, if your intention is to adjust both dates and times, then
I
withdraw.
wish
it and
somebody
put it-
would have said that to me.
Yeah.
Mr. Lynch or you would have said something before they let me put this on the floor. I would have.
I just want to report to council with this change, the second meeting of every month, I'm responsible to give you a financial director's report. And it's been on record that I get it as fast over to Kathy and Fritz to review, but I typically cannot get that report out to them until like 11 a.m. on Friday. But we do meet that Friday deadline. It's because I don't have the information from all of our banks and investments. So my report could be delayed another meeting due to that.
Does that have any, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I don't have a problem either way, as far as that goes. I would just say this, the narrative that, this transparency narrative keeps coming up like we're hiding things from the public, and we're not. And I'll give you a good example. Miss Katie called me a couple times about things on the agenda. Did I answer you?
Yes.
Nothing hidden? That's okay, sorry. Okay. Nothing hidden. So people call me and ask me about this. I try to answer them to the best of my ability. If I don't, I get the answer for the constituent. So I don't think anybody on council is trying to hide everything. So this narrative that we're not transparent is kind of, to me, it's kind of false.
Also, Mr. Mayor, the fact that the public needs more time to get on the agenda is not accurate either, because the public has to be on the agenda by noon or 3 o'clock on Wednesday anyway. So no matter where you move this, it doesn't affect that. Unless you move that back to Tuesday, then the public has to be on the agenda by 3 o'clock on Tuesday.
I understand. Okay, what I'm saying, they still have the 3 minutes, don't they, sir? They still are entitled to the 3 minutes. It gives them one extra day to find out if they want to come up and talk for the 3 minutes. We're not asking for 10 minutes, Mr. Waddell.
I didn't say anything about 10 minutes.
Well, I'm saying,
Never talked about minutes at all. I just said when it had to be on the deadline.
Well, the fact of the things we have to measure here is I don't believe that there's anybody sitting behind the table here that doesn't have the best interest of the community at heart. And if we could get the stuff out 3 days in advance, we would like to, but I think that individuals over here have to let us know logistically if that's possible, and that's what we need to weigh.
Are we voting or is this? He's withdrawn it.
He's withdrawn.
He's withdrawn it. All right, so.
Next agenda?
Yeah, next.
Yeah, he withdrew. Yeah.
what was that?
You firmly withdrew that motion, correct, sir?
I can't hear you, Mr.
You're firmly withdrawing that motion so you can make those modifications for
Yes.
next time. Thank you, sir.
Could I have one more before?
It's withdrawn. It's out of order.
Yeah, we're-
It's gone.
Well, that item right there is not on the table
All right,
anymore. so,
okay.
Where we at?
2009.
Ordinance 2020-09, an ordinance repealing ordinance 2020-06 and authorizing the new contract with the Newton Falls First Congregational Church.
So moved.
Waddell, discussion.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak, please?
Yes.
In regards to the purchase of the church, I believe this council has heard from a very large sample of city residents that they are for the purchase of the church. I try to listen to all voices in town, and I've already heard a small sampling, very small sampling of about 3 or 4 people who don't want the purchase of the church. And just to say they don't want it, so I can't find a good reason not to purchase a church. I think one of the goals that council is trying to do is streamline our operations, create a one-stop shop, especially for our elderly citizens in Newton Falls, where they can go in and visit the city manager or pay their taxes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think as you've seen the article in Sunday's Tribune yesterday, Councilman Zavet, today ends yesterday, Councilman Zavet is putting together a workflow program to just to show the public what that looks like on paper. You go in, I'm not sure who the point of contact is in the building, but that workflow project will show where the city offices will be located, where the tax offices will be located, and also what other venues in the city we wish to put in there. So on top of that, the church, the church was valued at close to $1 million. We're paying $250,000 for it. Economically, it makes good sense for us to do that. And one of the constituents talked earlier about us letting buildings run down. No, we don't let buildings run down. These buildings are old. They're just old. You can only put so much money into a junk car, and the result's going to be the same. So I think this is a great investment for the city of Newton Falls. I think it's a great investment for its people. They're getting a great return on their money. And buying this property, as President Trump always says, you can't ever lose on property. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Bariak?
Yes, I'd like to, first of all, we ran into a situation with the way, what you were hearing from the public tonight was because there wasn't any input. The contract was written to be by the 3rd. I gave my reasons. Look, I've had people come up to me on the street and say, how come you didn't put any money in that old building? Well, why point fingers at past administrations and go back here, who did this, who didn't do that? Let's move forward. The other thing is, it is a good investment for the community. And let me say this, and I don't mean to be facetious. If we didn't buy it, there would be a few that would say, if we missed a deal, they'd say, why didn't you buy it? It was such a good deal. So you're going to have a head and a tail on the coin. I stated my reasons on the floor, and I'd like to ask Mr. Klein, the mayor tonight, excuse me, sir, if you'd weigh in on this, your feelings, because you haven't really weighed in very hard on this. And I'd like to ask Mr. Lynch if he could weigh in on it again about why he set the deadline on that contract when he did, because some people have asked that.
Okay.
If people would do that, I would.
I'm 110% in support of it. The cost that we're getting it for is, I can't think of a better word than to say it's a steal to get a $900,000 building for $250,000. Very little repairs or changes need to be done on our part. It's you could say almost move-in ready. Individuals bring up, as Mr. Alberini had said, why are you doing this when you have these buildings? Well, we can use the tax office, for instance. What we're paying for this entire building, repairs that it would take to get that building up to speed is probably 50 or 60% of what we're buying the entire building for. So I'm 110% for it. I spent 12 years in that building, so I know what that building's about, pastoring a church there. You know, and it's a great building. It's a huge building. I mean, great parking, great, you know. And the fact of the matter is, and we've mentioned this a lot, of the reason we did do it in an emergency the way that we did, brought up that you had asked Mr. Lynch, and he could correct me on a lot of the wording that I say, but that wasn't the council, that wasn't the city manager that put that together like that. The seller brought that to us in that way, that we got the deal one day and it needed to be passed that night, so it had to be. Our feet were to the fire. That wasn't a thing of trying to hush try to do it by the midnight oil or anything like that. It was we were doing what the seller asked us to do, and that was all I have on that. Mr. Lynch?
Well, just very briefly, real estate contracts have sort of a life cycle to the formation of the contract itself. And they begin with something called an initial offer, and it's not a contract. I signed the initial offer as the city manager, but before I did that, I conferred with the law director because I wanted to make sure I wasn't signing a binding contract without council approval. Because real estate contracts are what referred to as an executory contract, which means not a binding contract until all the contingencies are fulfilled, indicated I had the full liberty to sign that as long as there was a contingency that city council had to approve it, number one, and secondly, that there was an acceptance of the offer on the part of the seller. In this particular case, this contract went through different manifestations, one of which was an initial offer. There was one point in time where there was an offer for a lower amount of money, $240,000, if in fact there was the activity where the church could rent some space over at the church. That was one version. There was a lower version than that. At one point in time, I think we offered $225,000. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And these conversations were happening behind the scenes. They happen behind the scenes because the state law says specifically they happen behind the scenes so the parties can negotiate with each other. Imagine if you were a union negotiating your contract with General Motors, and the chairman of General Motors could sit inside the meeting with you in the union hall and listen to you and participate in your planning of the strategy. That's why the state law says those back and forth happen behind the scenes. Finally, the last contract offer that was made to the church was made well before February 3rd. In fact, I think it was 10 days before February 3rd when that original offer for the $250,000 was there. At that point in time, we anticipated the church would meet on a Sunday night, full week before the city council meeting. In fact, I said to the representative of the church, don't give me that contract back that February 3rd because there's a February 3rd deadline on it. Please, don't give me that contract signed by you as accepted on February 3. Because if you do that, we're forced to pass it as an emergency. And we don't like to pass things as an emergency. Look at the contract. I posted online. It was signed by the last member of the church on February 3. So I went to the city council and said, look, folks, none of us like to pass this as an emergency, but if you don't pass it tonight, because it has a February 3rd deadline, it expires. And the church can sell that to any person they want to. and they can tell you to pound salt. So the council was faced with a tough decision, and it's not an enviable position. Councilman Bariak, I know you and I had lots of conversation about this because you were concerned about that issue, as was every single member of this council, the fact that they were having to look at this on an emergency basis. So council passed it. In the meantime, those of you who took the time to read that contract, which was posted online, it indicates that the city of Newton Falls had 20 days in order to investigate thoroughly and completely the condition of the building. And in the world of real estate contracts, you don't have the right to do that investigation until the contract is signed by both parties. We didn't have the right to do that investigation until we had names on both sides from the city and the church and approved by city council so that we could do that investigation, and we did it. We went through equivalent of an annual exam of the church. We really did a very thorough investigation of the church, and we found some problems. As a result of that, we went back to the church and said that contract we cannot be satisfied with because there are some problems with the sewer, and we want to make sure that we aren't paying more money for the sewer repair on top of the $250,000 we're already paying. So we sent a message to the church that it looked like it was going to be pretty tough to do this deal unless we had a brand-new contract. They agreed. And tonight, there's a brand-new contract, and it can go 2 readings and doesn't have to be an emergency. Why is that? Here's why. Because this legislation revokes the old contract. It repeals it. But this legislation won't be passed until March 16th. So that contract isn't repealed until March 16th. In other words, we can't lose the deal by having to go 2 readings, as we would have on February 3rd, and that's why you had it as an emergency. So now tonight, you take your time. Accept public input. Have 2 readings, because until the second reading, and if council passes that and it's approved, the old contract is still in full force and effect until that date, and we can't lose the deal. So the next question is it a good deal? It's up to the members of council to make a decision. I think they've expressed themselves to some extent, but we'll have a second reading on March 16th, and we'll have an opportunity to resolve that issue once and for all. Mr. Bariak, I think that responds to your question.
Any other discussion?
There are some other issues that were brought up, and, they're somewhat minor, and, those are things that we're going to need to repair and fix, which is, customary, and it's not a big issue, and there's also some remodeling, a couple things that we're going to need to do in there anyway. I think the sewer was, we knew about the sewer from day one, and I think that was important to take a good look at that, get it, examined, see what the issue is, because it could create a problem. But I think the rest of the things that were identified are small in nature, and it just goes with a contract when you purchase something as is to, we need to repair those things, and they aren't a really big issue. So I think this is a good deal. When people say that the city has failed to maintain their buildings, it comes from people with a lack of knowledge and without any insight of what's been going on in the past. There wasn't funds to do a lot of things in the past. Nobody was hiding any money. We didn't just all of a sudden say, oh boy, we found money. No, it's just because of the actions we've been taking, the things we've been doing that has, generated income. But the cost of repairs and construction has really gone up. And the fact that that building, the annex, needs a new roof in itself, it's a flat roof, it's very expensive. It needs restrooms, it needs remodeled. There's, things were wrong with it. And I was trying to think where I saw the other day, but I saw a picture of that building in its design while it was being built. And it's hanging somewhere in Newton Falls, and I can't remember if it was at Huntington Bank or if it's at the Covered Bridge, but someplace in town, there's a couple of pictures of that in different stages of construction back when it was being built. And it's an old building, and it needs work. And I think this is a great way to get everybody into the same place, doing the same thing, and I think it'll be much more efficient. It's an excellent purchase.
Mr. Bariak.
I would like to ask the city manager, we are going to have Falk and Associates help Mr. Savet. Is it true Mr. Savet will be involved on how we will lay the building out? Is Falk going to help us the engineer? I thought we were gonna use Falk because they're under contract.
Okay.
It won't cost us anything. Go ahead.
May I
Oh,
respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me. Falk instead of Falk. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Lord, take me now.
Okay.
Mr. Savet's plan was something that we were going to sit down as maybe a group and talk about and decide how to utilize the buildings and structures or.
Well, I was gonna leave
But-
that
With the
because
mayor.
it's an administrative function.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, as I mentioned last time this question was asked, I have no problem consulting our consulting engineer, but I don't think it takes an engineering degree to figure out who's gonna go in what room. So, the answer is, I'll use them if it's necessary, but I think we can handle it.
Anybody else? Mrs. Braymeyer, Mr. Savet?
Where's my room gonna be?
It's that great
It's in-
big one.
it's in the back.
It's in the back.
Yeah, okay.
Would that be a first reading?
Yeah, where
Do
the
we
fence
vote on
is
that?
already, got it.
Okay. Okay.
That's for roll.
Roll call?
Waddell?
Yes.
Braymeyer?
Yes.
Alberini? Yes. Savet?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
All right, pass.
Resolution 08, 2020, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into and execute a contract with Untangled Technology for general technology consulting.
Second. Can you give us a little bit of
Sure.
insight on the function?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our official first sticking our toe in the waters of bringing a fiber system to Newton Falls. The company, Untangled Technology, is the company that designed, engineered, implemented, and is now running the Fairlawn Gig fiber project. The City of Fairlawn's fiber project is the most highly advanced municipal fiber technology system in the United States of America. And the man who created it is the gentleman we're consulting. Now, I said sticking our toe in the water. There's a $5,000 cap on this contract. So we are not putting ourselves in a position where we're hiring consultants with an open-ended contract, don't want to do that. But we do have to have answers. And as you know, I went to a fiber conference just a couple of weeks ago, and this is the most educated and most deliberate first step with very little financial exposure to the city. But Dustin Wright is perhaps the most advanced technological understander of what's going on with fiber technology in America and what's over there at Fairlawn. A number of you in the community took tours with us to go see the Fairlawn. I think we did that last August, I want to say. Anyways, we did that last year, and it is pretty amazing. And I want to make sure to say one more thing before I close. Our game plan is to have a fiber system installed that does not expose the taxpayers. I want everybody to understand that. Not one penny of taxpayer money being exposed, and by that I mean that if we decide to build this, and Mr. Wright will help us in that regard, I want to do that through the issuance of revenue bonds, where private investors are the ones taking the risk. All you as a citizen have to do is subscribe, and your speed will be light years ahead of what you're getting right now, because our providers are not using fiber. Our providers are not willing to spend the money to put fiber in, and a new day is about to dawn, especially if you're a new business in town.
Any other discussion? Mr. Barriott?
Mr. Lynch took a trip down for the fiber optic down there.
Yes.
And shame on me, but I didn't ask for a report on what went on down there. You gave something tonight. Look, I'm not against something that may be good. But, you know, just hiring somebody without even giving us a presentation or there's a work session or something, I'd like to know what we're gonna go after and what he's gonna do, and I have a lot of questions. Do you think he could come up here if we hired him and answer council's questions?
Oh, sure. Listen, he's gonna have to answer council's questions anyhow about coming up with answers, but tonight, it's like this. I got a pain right here. I'd like to hire a doctor to see what that pain is all about. Should we hire a doctor? I think we should. In this case, it's the need for speed for our citizens and our businesses. And this is a great way to start.
Excuse me, Mr. Lynch, we're not getting into this to buy a trash can. We're getting into revenue bonds, which even though they may not have to pay interest, we have to have the credit to get them. Our city has to have the credit to get the revenue bond.
No.
Well,
you're not understanding the revenue bond.
I understand that, but I mean, you're going to tell me if we're in, what do you call, financial, like the school district, if we went in fiscal watch, they may issue us these revenue bonds?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
No, the revenue bonds are based on the financial feasibility of the project. In other words, will the project produce the revenue to pay off the bondholders? If the answer is no, we can't do that. If the answer is yes, we can, but the financial condition of the city is irrelevant. It's the financial feasibility of how much money will this produce. Listen, let me give you a number. Right now, our cable service alone, not the internet that Spectrum has, Spectrum alone is collecting $1.3 million of your money, citizens, your money just for cable television, and they're collecting more than that for the internet purposes. And they're not giving us the internet money, but I know they collect more internet than they do for cable TV, but they're required to tell us what they collect for cable television. And they collect over $1.3 million just from the village. So my point is, John, that Spectrum's making a lot of money off cable television and making a ton of money off of internet. Now, instead of driving an old jalopy, we're going to offer everybody a Cadillac for at least the same or lower price than they're already paying right now. Now, you don't have to figure that out in terms of, isn't it a good investment? The people in Wall Street that issue the revenue bonds, well, the bonds get bought or not, those investors will decide. If it's not a good deal, the institutional investors in Wall Street, or you personally, if you decide you want to buy some of this, members of council, will make the decision. Is it a good investment? We don't have to expose the full faith and credit of the city. I don't want to. And the idea of spending taxpayer dollars to build this thing is a misnomer, and it needs to end.
I'll do a call.
Go ahead.
Okay, second.
Roll call.
Braymire.
Yes.
Alberini.
Yes.
Savet.
Yes.
Bariak.
Yes.
Waddell.
Yes.
Yes.
Resolution 09-2020, a resolution to accept the Ohio Memorandum of Understanding and authorizing the village solicitor to accept the memorandum regarding the pursuit and use of potential opioid litigation settlement funds.
Discussion.
Would you like me to discuss that?
I think we should.
Good. I want to start out by saying that at the OMO meeting last week, or Friday a week ago.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order. It's the second time tonight the former mayor has mentioned the OML real quickly, the Ohio Municipal League. Most of our citizens, when you say
I'm
OML,
sorry.
they have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. The Ohio Municipal League they represent, in my district includes Lake, Geauga, Portage, Summit, Trumbull, Columbiana, and there's 92 or 94 villages and cities in that area. And the Ohio Municipal League has partnered with all of the districts all through the state of Ohio to put this settlement out there for the state of Ohio to look at. The state of Ohio has filed a lawsuit against the pharmaceutical companies in this opioid crisis for misfeasance, nonfeasance, malfeasance committed by certain entities within the pharmaceutical supply chains. And there's an attorney, Frank Gallucci, who represents the plaintiffs, which are the communities. And the communities are trying to band together to create an out-of-court settlement because They're afraid that the pharmaceuticals won't be there by the time Ohio gets their case on the docket. There was a settlement here just recently, and I can't remember the name of the pharmaceutical, but they handed over their $1.5 billion company to the lawsuit, and they're gone. The state of New York has filed a $1 trillion lawsuit against the pharmaceuticals. California, Texas, Florida, I believe, have also filed, as the state of Ohio. Also, certain entities, certain communities within the state of Ohio have filed their own lawsuits, and that's where I think Ashtabula is represented by Mr. Gallucci. The memorandum of understanding gives the state of Ohio the ability to try to broach an out-of-court settlement with the pharmaceuticals. And just so you know how this is going to work, all the opioid funds will be divided into with 30% going to local governments, which is us, 55% to a foundation, which would structure safe homes and rehabilitation and that kind of stuff, and 15% to the Ohio Attorney General's Office counsel for the state of Ohio. The lawyers will take their percentage out of that. There won't be a separate share to the attorneys that comes out of the fund. The division of opioids paid to local governments participating in the individual settlement shall be based on the allocation created and agreed to by the local governments, which is where that percentage came from that I had talked about before, which assigns each local government a percentage share. The allocations are set forth, and you have to spend the money as is dictated, and part of that has to go, it goes back to your police, your fire. A good example was there was a community that took money out of their Park and Recs fund to put into their police department because they couldn't fund their police department anymore, so they had to pull money. Now you could legitimately maybe put that back into your Park and Recs department if you can show that you did that. The local share is paid in cash directly to the local governments under a settlement through an administrator. Nothing in the MOU should be altered or changed by any local government's rights, and we still have a right if you have a lawsuit, which we don't have a lawsuit pending. The local governments that have a lawsuit pending have the right to continue with their own lawsuit. The parties agree to establish a local government fund to compensate local governments if the parties can secure the separate litigation. So it's really a win-win situation for all of us. I think the interesting part of this whole deal was when we were in Columbus, the attorneys said that they hadn't heard back from a lot of the communities serviced by the Ohio Municipal League or anybody else. So the Ohio Municipal League asked its board of director members to, move this thing forward. So I came home last Friday. I spent about 4.5 hours putting together all the phone numbers for the 90 different entities or so that we have. And then Monday, I spent pretty close to 6 hours making over 100 phone calls to all of the cities and villages within our district here, my district, to let them know about this. The interesting thing was some of the communities up north knew about this and had litigation or had a lot of stuff on their council and talked about it. There's a lot of councils that are talking about this tonight and tomorrow night. And I think what was really neat is I heard back from 15 mayors from all over my district that said, thank you for calling us and letting us know that this was going on. We didn't know anything about it, or we did, but we at least, it's nice to hear from the Ohio Municipal League that, you're looking after us. And that's what we do as a member of the board. We're supposed to look out for our district and take care of the communities that are within our district. So this was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun talking to the different clerks and trying to explain to them where to go to get the information, and then faxing all the information to some of them. Orangeville was really kind of interesting. Orangeville was having trouble with their fax machines. They couldn't get faxes, and their computers weren't working, and they have a meeting tonight. I think it's tonight. And it took 3 days to get the fax to them, so.
You better tell them Orangeville's adding about 50 people there.
Orangeville is,
Kinsman area?
it's in the Kinsman area. It's over.
How big is Orangeville?
Not real big, but they have a mayor.
They have like 80.
80 people?
They have a big orange tree, right?
Oh, I don't know.
It's up by Kinsman.
Yeah, you can drive through there.
Right
but-
by Kinsman, it's just a.
But, I think our district has a lot of information now, and I think it's good for all of us to participate in this. There's a chance that if we allow the state of Ohio to go through with their lawsuit, we may not see anything at all. So the numbers that I gave at the last meeting are a percentage of whatever it was, 0.03567 or something, which may equate into $330,000. I do want to make sure that everybody understands that that was just an estimate. Depending on the settlement amount, that money could go up or down or whatever. But that was something they put on the board, and they kind of wish they had done that because everybody was looking at the dollar amounts and going, wow, this is exciting. But if you settle for less, because I think the lawsuit from the state of Ohio was $50 billion. So depending on what the settlement is how that's going to be split up. So this is a win-win for all of us, and all this memorandum of understanding does is tells the state of Ohio that we are willing to be a part of an out-of-court settlement. That's all this does. It doesn't require any legal fees. It doesn't require any representation from the city other than signing this resolution and sending it to the Ohio Municipal League, who will forward it to the attorneys for the plaintiffs, and it doesn't cost us anything to be part of this.
Is there anything that we can ask? Has OML been coordinating with the Ohio Township Association?
No, and they don't. The Ohio Township Association has their own group, but I will say I did talk to our township and gave them a copy of the memorandum of understanding. I talked to all the county commissioners within the counties that I deal with, just because they didn't know either. So since I was talking to them, I called all the county commissioners and talked to them, and Mr. Fuda got back to me and said, thanks a lot, they appreciated the information. But I did contact the commissioners and our own township trustees, but I didn't call the rest of them because that's not under our jurisdiction.
No, that's okay. I just didn't know if the organizations were kind of coordinating this. And
No, but I do know that some of the other board members, they have a mayor's association, like over in the Sydney area, and they've already contacted all their mayor's associations. So
okay.
I have a question for the law director.
Comment,
Mr.
please.
Fritz, I understand exactly what we're doing tonight. It's just passing this memorandum that we'll go along with. Do you anticipate that if we do get the settlement, do you have any idea whether, with just your legal expertise, whether it will go to the general fund or go to the police, or how they would dictate us to use it?
It's probably
Without getting complicated right now?
Yeah, it's probably premature. What we're doing is we're entering a non-binding agreement to allow the Attorney General to continue with negotiations, try to settle it. As the former mayor indicated, there's a percentage that goes to us, but there's no specifics yet on how we're restricted. Some people want to go all law enforcement, some saying they want, because 55% is already going to treatment and education. So they're trying to negotiate some of that stuff out. So I can't give you a hard and fast rule what's going to happen. But keep in mind, most of the expenses for the police department is in our general fund, so it would relieve some of the pressure on the general fund because that money would go to the police department. So right now, it looks like it's probably going towards enforcement and police departments. So that would, in a sense, take some of the pressure off of the general fund.
Mr. Alberini. Mr. Mayor, I just want to say this. This is a lot of money, potentially, that we could get here at Newton Falls. But in no way does this amount of money replace the kids that we've lost here with a drug addiction. Chelsea's here. Chelsea, I'm so proud of you, girl. My son Benjamin's come a long way. But I think this is a start in getting closure, the healing process. Our EMS and law enforcement see this stuff firsthand on a daily basis when someone needs Narcan or someone's OD'd, and it's heartbreaking because I had this conversation the other day with my son Benjamin. I said, how many friends that you graduated with from Newton Falls are left? He said none. None. So
I could add that there is a committee that's being put together to administer this, and there will be a representation of the villages and the cities, the law firm, to sit on this, and it's kind of, there's a process to select people to sit on this committee. It has been stated, though, that it would go to the general fund and earmarked for anything that had to do with the opioid crisis, whether it was police, fire, or anything else that we have had to do, or any other entity has had to do. So it does go to the general fund, but it's earmarked for a specific use.
Any other discussion before roll call? Okay, roll call.
Alberini?
Yes.
Savett?
Yes.
Bariak? Waddell? Braymire?
Yes.
Pass.
Resolution 10-2020, a resolution adopting a statement indicating the services the City of Newton Falls, Ohio will provide to the 27.952 plus or minus acre territory proposed to be annexed from Newton Township and Braceville Township, Trumbull County to the City of Newton Falls, and buffer requirements the municipality will require as provided by Ohio Revised Code, Section 709023.
Alberini, go second. Discussion.
Could you weigh in on this, please, Mr. Lynch?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We passed the venture plastic legislation for annexation quite a long time ago, and it's making its way through the legal channels. One of the things that our attorney from Columbus contacted us about, her name is Catherine Cunningham, was the fact that at this stage, we're in about the 8th inning of this ball game of the final approval of the annexation, that we need to make a public statement by resolution indicating that we are willing to provide municipal services to the annexed area. In addition to that, we have to make a public statement saying that if there's a problem with the zoning of the annexed area, and it's inconsistent with the area of the city to which it is being annexed, that we will have the annexed area create a buffer. Now, we have to say that, but quite frankly, that's not an issue with us anyhow. The area of Venture Plastics is not inconsistent with the area to which it is being annexed along Warren Road. So that's an irrelevancy, but we have to make a legal statement to that effect anyhow. But as far as provide municipal services are concerned, we have to say to the world, if we're willing to take the area in as annexation, we have to be willing, with our eyes open, to provide municipal services. In our cases, that's also an irrelevancy, because the county is already plowing that road. In other words, we're going through the motions to provide a legal requirement which has no ultimate meaningful impact on our city whatsoever. Please pass this tonight so we can move on.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Savett?
Yes.
Bariak?
Yes.
Waddell?
Yes.
Braymire?
Yes.
Alberini?
Yes.
Pass.
Resolution 11-2020, a resolution authorizing the county engineer to act on the city's behalf to advertise and accept bids for the 2020 paving project.
Have you heard, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Members of council, Trumbull County is blessed with a lot of small hamlets, burgs, municipalities, cities and villages and townships. And they can participate in the process of creating bids for all their roads to be repaved by writing bid specifications for each road, and then each contractor can attend a bid process for each little hamlet, village, township, city, whatever the burg is, they can go through that process. However, it's cumbersome, and as a result of that, the number of companies bidding, for example, if we did our own bids, is limited, and therefore the prices aren't as good if all those hamlets, townships, burgs got together and consolidated their need for roads under one bid package, and the county engineer does that on behalf of the city of Newton Falls and many other communities. Last year, we got a terrific price on road resurfacing, and we got a lot of work done. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2020, as James M. Cohen used to say, or George M. Cohen used to say, you ain't seen nothing yet. Even more roads are being done this summer than last year, and we did a lot last year. We're playing catch-up, we know that for sure. But because the county engineer is so helpful in producing this process of going out for bid on our behalf, so that all the big boys of the paving and resurfacing business are working together all at one time, under this gigantic bid that the county engineer does, we get awfully good prices. And to every ward councilman, new roads are coming to a neighborhood near you. Please pass this tonight.
Just real quick, do you have a list of the roads?
we have an initial start of those roads, and I'll be happy to confer with the members of council about, I can provide you, in fact, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I will email that to everybody tomorrow. But the number of roads we get is dependent on how these bids come in as well. But look, we know there are a lot of bad roads in this town, and essentially, the criteria we're using, Councilman Servette, is we're trying to get the worst roads done first. And we took a crack at some really bad cracked roads last year, this year even more. And by the way, we're not just talking about capital projects for roads, we're also planning on doing some other things. As a matter of fact, well, I'll talk about it in the city manager's report, but the other areas for capital improvements, especially involving water elimination, that we'll be talking about separately as well.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? I'll just throw in there with the Trumbull County looking for bids for the roads. Maybe they can get some bids for the sidewalks so they can take care of my guy John Thompson there. Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Bariak.
Yes.
Waddell.
Yes.
Braymire.
Yes.
Alberini.
Yes.
Savette.
Yes.
Pass. Okay. Public comments. Okay, and then the final public comments, again, is 3 minutes, but it can be any issue, not just agenda items.
Chelsea Harper, 128 West Corey. So real quick, Mr. Waddell, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, whatever it was, had brought up a Facebook post. So obviously everybody here goes on the Newton Falls Facebook, and it was, someone had mentioned on there, not naming names, that I don't live in Newton Falls. I grew up here. My life's here. My job is here. My son goes to school here. My parents live here. I would live here if we had anything for my daughter, and you don't. There's no special classrooms here. There's no special therapies here. My 3-year-old's autistic, and she's nonverbal. She needs all of those specialties that Newton Falls doesn't offer at all. And I'm not sending her on a bus for 45 minutes to go to the school that she needs to go to. That's not fair to her. She can't handle that. So, next. I started with pharmaceutical drugs a long time ago, and I know quite a few people who did. So, I don't know, I guess that's something to keep pushing for. Because a lot of us didn't have those grants back then, I guess. So thank you guys for passing that tonight. I greatly appreciate that. That's all I got. Thanks.
Charlotte Simmons, 365 Warren Road. I've listened to everything tonight, and there's one thing we did not talk about here tonight. And this happened on Friday morning. We had the new 2020 inductees that were inducted into the National Honor Society. Not only that, but there was 12 other students chosen to go for the boys Buckeye State and the girls Buckeye State. They will go to Mount Union in Alliance for a week to study government and all the things that goes with it. And maybe someday we will see one of these students up here when they go to study. And most of all, I'd like to thank the American Legion for choosing these 12 students. And I hate to say it, but the girls outweighed the guys. There was only 2 guys win and 10 girls. And that's all I want to say. Good evening.
Okay, anybody else?
Katie Carl, 128 West Corey. And yes, there's been a lot of Facebook posts and completely unprofessional, but that's okay. If they're saying something bad about you, they're leaving somebody else alone. So, and this town is rife with rumor and innuendo and nasty gossip. But our businesses, our businesses need to be left alone. Our businesses are struggling, which is why we're having Falls Wizarding Festival. And We are starting to have the meetings and getting everybody together because that is July 17th and 18th. Everybody needs to be on board with that and get moving with it because it is for the businesses and for the different organizations. And I'd like to have council support. I'll ask that the next meeting we have a resolution of support from City Council because it is important to have, it's for the businesses. Again, the revenue that was lost, one business alone lost 70% of their business when the bridges were closed. That's a lot to lose. And I know that happens when we have construction and when there's something that helps our town in the end. But while it's happening, that some businesses suffer. So this is geared towards helping out organizations and clubs. So please, everybody, get on board and get behind to help our businesses out. And please, also, if I could get an answer for what is been resolved with the utilities and if the forms and then the process for appeals and whatnot has been changed. That was my question. If I was too vague, I'm sorry. When I asked about with the open hearings for public hearings and unfinished business, that's what I was referring to. I didn't mean to be unclear in that regard. Thank you. Excuse me.
Jim Malone-Onsu, 10 East Liberty Street. I'm glad to see that you revoked the 2020-06 and went with the 2020-09. I don't think any of us were necessarily against the purchase price of the church. What we were against was that it was passed as an emergency. We wanted our chance to voice our opinion, the other citizens to be able to voice their opinion. I don't think it's a bad purchase price. I think, though, that one thing that you're kind of leading the citizens astray on is that you still own this building. It's still going to be our responsibility, and it's still an old building. There's still going to be the court here. The police department's still downstairs, and the fire department's still downstairs. We still own it. It's still ours to take care of. Yeah, we'll get rid of the administrator or the tax building or the building on Center Street, and it's not going to be our responsibility to take care of maybe. But the police department's downstairs. Those men and women are there 24 hours a day. And just this last summer, we couldn't allow anyone to use the restrooms here. They had to use the restrooms at the AMVETS because we had a plumbing issue. So when the roof starts leaking here, the judge is a tenant. He doesn't have to fix the roof. We're going to have to fix the roof. If there's some major electrical issue, that doesn't mean the judge is going to fix it. We're going to have to fix it. So we still own this building. So that's something to take into consideration. We're not getting rid of both of the buildings. We're still going to own this building. So we still do have some responsibility to take care of this building also. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Kropp, 2470 Elizabeth Street. I have a few things to address here. I'll try to cover as many as I can as quickly as possible. I made a public records request on February 27th, which was Thursday morning at about 8:30. Mr. Fritz, from what I understand, you were here Tuesdays and Thursdays. Is that correct? I guess you maybe can't answer. I have not received that back yet, and it was a request for the all credit card receipts from the city, having to do with any credit cards that are handed out to any city employees, whether it be the city manager, city clerk, any members of council. I want those receipts, and they should be public record. I don't understand why they weren't available, why they weren't made available. I made a reasonable request, so I haven't seen those yet. I would like to get those. I'd also like I'd like to make a formal request for February's as well, since it's now March. I would like to address also something that Chelsea kind of touched on, as far as it's beyond just online, it's the behavior of council. So I'm actually going to look at the camera. I'm not even going to address you guys. I'm going to look at the camera, and I'm going to talk to the people of the city here, because that's really what matters. The people of the city are what's important here. And don't let anybody up here ever bully you, make you feel inferior, make you feel like you can't speak out for yourself or speak it on your behalf. I've actually started a new website and a new group. It's called Newton Falls X. And the idea is to try to explain, examine, and expose all the good and bad things that are happening here in town, because there isn't a place right now, a central place for people like myself and other people in town to get neutral information, just to get all the information and make their own decisions. You get pieces and parts, depends who you talk to, depends on gossip. People are on Facebook making conversations, that kind of stuff. We've got council members that make derogatory comments online, are very unprofessional. It's kind of sad, honestly. And I actually had one of the council members actually comment towards me that they were proud that our Newton Falls High School Board of Education will not allow me to volunteer. Mr. Klein is aware of the situation because he was actually board president last year when this was all going down, and I'm still not able to help participate with volunteering with our high school baseball team. And one of our council members think that's funny, and they're proud of that. So I know Mr. Woodard was here tonight, and he talked about needing money. There are a handful of people, just a few people in this town that are the real problem, and I think most people know who those people are, and it's just a few, and they're lifers. They're people that have been here their entire life. They think that the city is theirs and that they own it, and that everyone else is just kind of borrowing their time. That's not really the case. I wanted to ask Mr. Lynch, we talked previously about the Newton Falls City website. Is the city website ever going to get redone? Is it anything ever going to get done to it? I know we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a building that we don't need, while the other buildings are deteriorating, and I don't care if it's an old building or not. If you don't maintain it, it will fall apart. I don't care how old it is. So I'd like to see the website updated or something done to it. You guys don't share any real information. You put the agenda on there. There were changes made to the agenda today that were reflected from 3/1, which was yesterday. So those changes were just made. I've been monitoring that closely. Mr. Lynch, you actually reached out to me. I believe it was today or yesterday. You reached out to me and asked me to do another interview for Newton Falls Means Business, and I told you that I would be interested, and if you'd have Mr. Greger reach out to me. I'm just going to finish my thought and then I'll stop. I would like to make a suggestion or offer to the city that if the city would like to pay me $500, I would present me with a check. I will donate it to a local charity to do the interviews because I really enjoy it. I think the businesses in town really can utilize that, and it's good for the town. It really is, and I enjoy it. So I would like to present that or suggest that to Mr. Lynch. I guess my time's up, so that's all I have. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, anybody else?
Okay, if not,
Okay.
Hello, Richard Kolovich, 318 Milton Boulevard, Newton Falls. I didn't really prepare a speech, but I'm here to represent our furry friends, our dogs. I feel the town could use a dog park here, and I would be willing to do whatever I can to make it happen. I briefly spoke with the city manager about it, and he directed me to the Park and Rec. And here also to tell the citizens if they think it's a good idea to go to the Park and Rec meeting. And I forget what date did you say that was on March, Council? March 25th. On March 25th, and express their ideas and things like that. One of the things the dog park would do for the town, I think it would bring some new faces in town. I've been to the one at Mosquito Lake, the one at Austintown, West Branch, and at the dog parks, you get to talk to other dog owners, and they always go like, where's the best dog park at? And, you create a discussion. Those people would probably kind of check out our dog park if we had one, go to our local restaurants and businesses here, check those out, and generate a little extra tax revenue, that kind of thing. I don't think it would require a whole lot of cost. We already have the property, just require a little bit of fencing, and we already mow the yards and things like that. Most of the dog owners that go to the dog parks are respectful. They clean up the waste and things like that. I just put it out on Facebook here about a month ago to see what kind of reaction that I would get, and I got 100% positive feedback from everybody. If you follow the Newton Falls Village Facebook, you can experience some of the comments on there, and very positive comments. So just once again, want to encourage everybody to show up to the Park and Rec meeting. Maybe it could happen here in our town. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, closing remarks. The only thing I have is just I wanted to retouch on something I brought up at the beginning, and that's the welcoming baskets that I had brought up. It seems like something kind of simple, but to make it nice, there's a lot of work that's going into it. We met today, and we still have a lot of work to do. Obviously, you have new people come to our community, and each of us, talk about wanting people to see our community in a positive way, to be received well. And I've, read a lot on Facebook about individuals that so many years ago have had that done to them, and, how nice they thought it was. But to do things properly, it takes not just individuals up here, but individuals in the community's help. And so I'd ask that not only businesses that would like to donate and have their name attached one way or another get in touch with myself or Linda Grunder or Mark Stempert in zoning or Kathy King, or residents, if you have any suggestions, any ideas, how we can, do this really nice, but do it in a way that's efficient, that we could repeat it. Say, we get a lot of people come in and out of the community, 200, 300, 400 of them a year, and we want to have it something that can be put together easily and not at $200 a basket. You can do the math times 100. That would be the next thing on Facebook. Look how much the mayor's spending on this. But I'm all ears. I want something really nice. Just figure if it was one of your family members moving into the town, how you would want something nice for them, and how we could do it at a good price, good ideas. Let the businesses that you frequent, let them know about it so that they can get in touch with us, and maybe they have gift certificates or items that they'd like to place in there. And that's all I have. City Manager?
Just very briefly, a couple of things, and I guess I'll do some partial responding to some of those things that came up during the second public session. Mr. Kropp and I met probably several weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about was that website. And so we've been doing interviews for webmasters, web creators, by the way, too, because it's important that not only do you create a great website, but that it be maintained. There's no point in, buying a fancy car if you're not going to change the oil. So we're almost done in the process of that, and Ms. King and I have been interviewing providers in that regard. And as everybody knows, when I first got here, I said, man, I hate our website. It's just plain vanilla. It doesn't contain links. One of the first things I did when I did become city manager is we started posting all the legislation and all the agendas on the website so people could see it, but that's not enough. That's really not enough. So I won't be happy until it's a, it's a website that makes every other municipal website look like trash, because I really want ours to be head and shoulders. Municipal websites, as a standard, generally speaking, are lousy to begin with all throughout America. And it seems that the smaller community, there are a couple of communities, and I won't name them, in our neighborhood, or if you go to their website, it barely has a phone number to reach the city hall and nothing else. It's terrible. So it's getting better, or it's about to get much, much better. And so I hope you'll be patient with us in that regard. You'll be very, very impressed. The other thing I want to mention is that we do want to encourage all of our businesses to participate more fully. And I will tell you, the thing I'm hearing most from our business community is about the fiber system. As I mentioned before, university hospitals spent a lot of money to put in their own fiber. We recently came across another business that just spent a lot of money to bring their own fiber. And Councilman Bariak, the numbers in terms of what fiber generates will make our electrical system or water system, the other utilities, pale in comparison, because it's the one thing that can set us apart from everybody else in Newton Falls. Ms. Carl, at the beginning of the meeting, alluded to the fact that the County Planning Commission was working on and had gotten a grant to do some feasibility studies for the county. But the county project is so massive in nature that the logistics of getting something like that rolling are several years away. Here's my goal. I would like to see construction on a new fiber system in Newton Falls begin sometime in January 2021. And the difference it makes the businesses is just day and night. And I hope that council, when these engineering activities get underway and I start telling you what these consultants are saying, and we will have Dustin Wright, as Mr. Bariak indicated, come to the city council and tell you what's going on in that regard. I hope you'll embrace the new opportunities that are coming our way. We'll insulate the city's finances by letting the investors take the risk, but don't say no to the opportunity for our citizens. It is a crying shame that standard copper coaxial cable is the only way you can get internet in the city of Newton Falls. That's a crime. We're not second-class citizens. There are communities all throughout Northeast Ohio that do have high-speed fiber. It's high time for us to sit in the front of the bus. Thank you.
Council?
Tonight, I want to say just a couple of things. Facebook is Facebook. My whole goal as being a councilman is not to be above anybody or below anybody. I just want to be informed because my boss is the public, the voters that voted for me. And I want to say a little story tonight. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, when he died, they took him on a train all around the country so they could show the body. And they didn't stop around here, they were supposed to, but they didn't. But where they did stop, there was a guy standing there by the rail and he was crying his eyes out. And the reporter walked over and said, "Did you know the president?" He said, "No, but he knew me." This job, I'm willing to take the knocks and everything, and even I'm not going to agree. But the good people in this town, all the people, whether they agree with me or not, I'm here to serve you. And when people, you take a look at what you want, and if it's not what you want, tell me. I'll be glad to respond. I have had calls, and whether I'd walk off this job or not tomorrow, I don't want to have to walk across the street. I've been in, I know all of you, all my life. I don't want to have to walk across the street with my head down like this. Now, I'm not trying to be Mr. Perfect. I'm not trying to be everybody to love me, but I've got a job to do, and I'll be willing, whatever they let me know or I'm allowed to tell, I will say to the public, and I've stated that before. I hope that this move forward. Now that this, there will be questions, and I'm all for, we're not afraid of anything up here to tell the public, are we? Well, then we should give the public all the opportunity we want. I want to thank everybody tonight for coming up.
Okay, Miss Braymeyer, do you have anything?
Well, I remember Welcome Wagon. Remember? And it's kind of putting my age out there, but I can remember the baskets from well, they had coupons in there and
Diapers.
yeah, diapers, candy bars with the businesses, names on them, and it was really nice. People really enjoyed that. And if I can help, let me know.
Well, we can use all the help we can get.
Okay.
So. Mr. Waddell?
I didn't have anything until the comments there. Ms. Simmons, I agree with you. The last 3 years, I had the opportunity to attend the National Honor Society banquets and speak there, and I think we need to recognize those men and women, or young men and women, for what they've done. It's a great honor. I was contacted by the school through the city to do that, and I don't know if we received a contact this year or not. So if we don't receive the information, and because I think one year I could go and I asked Mr. Albrain to go in my place. I think it's great to recognize them. I just don't know if we got anything this year or not, and if we didn't, maybe we can speak with the school to try to get that recognition, because you're right, they should be recognized, and we've done that in the past on the floor of council, and I think that's great. The second thing was an accusation by Mr. Kropp of the city clerk altering the agendas for tonight. And on Friday, when I get my agenda, I print it out, And on the bottom of my agenda, I write my calendar things on there, what I did, where I went, so that I could make my reports. And this is my agenda on Friday, and this is the agenda that I got tonight, and they appear to be exactly the same. So I'm not sure where you altered the agenda, but maybe you could enlighten us, please. That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is out of order, so I don't know if we need a suspense, Mr. Law Director, for me to mention something.
Comment section.
All right, so I guess we're in sort of the free-for-all portion.
Yes, sir.
I did want to mention that we got there were two things related to the agenda that needed to be corrected. One was Mr. Barack's ward number was wrong on the legislation that he sponsored. And in fact, Mr. Kropp called me on Saturday and asked me about that, so that had to be corrected. I don't even think, though, that made it into the amendment. There was an item placed on the website today. That's because last night we got the contract back from the Congregational Church showing all their signatures on it. And I'm only mentioning that because we can't put it up on there until they send it to us. And it came in last night. I think she sent it 6, 7 o'clock at night. And of course, I gave it to the city clerk this morning right away. So
The church was on the agenda.
the church was on the agenda. My only point is that
The amendment was indicated that that's what was changed.
that's right. My only point is that if you see on the website something that's changed, it's not because we're not trying to sneak it on at the last minute. It's because we received that document on a Sunday night for a Monday meeting, and we have to know, my goal is to notify the public as soon as humanly possible we can, and the church didn't have their meeting until sometime Sunday evening. So, so that's consistent with transparency.
Hey, Mr. Alberini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, I want to respond to Mr. Kropp's comments about Facebook. Brian, I think you're a good guy. Believe it or not, I like you. I think you're a talented guy. But I will tell you this, I don't post on Facebook. I post on my own Facebook. You only got one, but you also sent me a private message back. So I'm talking, you had your time, I'm talking, okay? Okay, I'm talking. I'm talking. All right, so what I've done is I've went back and looked on all these Newton Falls websites, all these Facebook pages, okay, which have become a cancer in the community. And I've seen comments that are so derogatory, maybe not from you, but from members of council up here, that I cannot believe the venom sometimes in this community from some individuals, maybe not associated with you. I think you're going to do a pretty good job controlling whatever website you got, and I respect that, okay? But sometimes the accusations up here that we're bullying people, that we're threatening people, that we're harassing people, I don't think it's true. Now, I have copies of things that people have sent me from your site, okay, that aren't too respectful. Now, you brought up the issue of the school board. The school board's a school board. We have nothing to do with the school board. Your issue is with the school board, and I think you should take that issue up with those folks, okay? Our goal as council, we may not always agree with each other, but at the end of the day, we're a family. We're here to move the town forward, whether people believe it or not. And I think we've done a pretty good job the last few years. We are the duly elected representatives of the city of Newton Falls. Excuse me. I've been elected 2 times, thankfully. I'm blessed to do that. The people think enough of us up here to put us in charge, okay? And the next time the council seat opens, I would encourage you to run and put your money where your mouth is. That way you can make the changes that you think need to be made. But right now, as I would state, I think we're on a good trajectory as a community. I've only lived here 15 years, so I'm with you. I'm a newcomer here. And I feel kind of blessed as a newcomer that the people elected me as a newcomer, because you're right. There is an undercurrent in this town. It's been here for a long, 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 long time. And we're here to break that undercurrent and bring some positivity and some economic growth to the village of Newton Falls. We agree to disagree sometimes. I respect that. And you likewise have to respect that too as well. I respect what you're doing. I hope you're the best in your business. I hope you're great success.
Okay, anybody else?
Well,
This is it.
yeah, thanks. Just wanted to report and thank and extend a helpful hand as well. On 10 a.m. Sunday, there was a fire in my ward. There were Newton Falls firefighters, Warren Township firefighters, Lordstown firefighters, and Milton firefighters as well, along with the Newton Falls Police Department, the water and electric departments for the city of Newton Falls that all came out and helped in some way and somehow in getting that fire under control. With their quick response from all of those folks, there was no other house damage except for the house that caught on fire, which is really surprising with the close proximity of those houses. And they were able to save 2 rabbits as well. So as far as I know, there were...
Lost a fish.
Oh, they lost fish. So
Yes.
there was a casualty, but...
The cat was happy.
Yes. So I just wanted to thank everyone and thank all the firefighters and police officers and all the city workers that came out and helped.
Sure.
Did you have something, Ms. Muser?
I just want to address the comment that I've been hearing that we have a meter reading problem with utilities, and I want to advise the public we do not. When I was hired back in 2016, the city has always had 3 part-time meter readers. We have currently today 3 part-time meter readers. We have 3 dedicated women that go out, rain, cold, freezing, and they go out and meet these readers. It's not the most easiest job to do. It's part-time. It's once a week, a month. We have passed the ordinance tonight to make the process even more efficient, and we have our project coming down the pike to make the meter reading even more efficient. But on the record, the truth is these people need to be recognized for the hard work they have done, but there is no meter reading issue.
Okay, Mr. Fitch, you have anything?
Nothing, sir, thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to recess into executive session for the reason of purchase or sale of property?
I'm going to withdraw that motion, Mr. Chairman. I think that we will not deem it necessary this evening.
Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on it?
Waddell? Freemeyer? Alberini? Savet? Bariak?
That's an FYI.
We'll do it next meeting.